Hey Dennis, how you doing? Yeah, I agree. First time you get into Photoshop, start working with animations. It's enthralling. It's so fascinating that next thing you know, 2 or 3 hours has gone by and you're still practicing and experimenting. And so I totally get that. I understand that completely. And I understand that, in the process, you forgot to place your call to action as well as your masked image from assignment 2-1. So that is really to a high degree, it's going to change what you have here because placement of the masked image as well as that call to action is going to really require you to rethink your composition. So let me just give you a couple of tips, a couple of tidbits. All right. So as we can see, the animation is not animating, or the GIF is not animating, and I've got it downloaded. So let's go ahead and take a look. I want you to notice what happens when this opens. Okay, there's the animation. Okay, then it stops. Okay, now I would not include the logo with the animation. Leave the logo static. That's for branding purposes. You're going to want that. Your client is likely going to want that logo to be visible throughout the entire banner. But as you notice, what I'm getting at is the animation just stops, right? And that's because it's not on a loop, or you're not telling it how many times to animate. I think for this assignment, and for generally, if you place this on the web, you kind of want it to continue its animated loop. Then that becomes part of the timing. How does one section fade out while the other fades in, and then how do you loop it back to the beginning while keeping good consistent timing in the animations throughout, right? So I want to show you right down here. I'm in a different Photoshop file, but I've got the timeline up, and right here, right at the very bottom next to the play controls, the playback controls, this word forever, there's a little drop down right there. And this is where you tell Photoshop how many times to repeat the loop, or how many times you want it to loop. You have once, 3 times, forever, or you can go in other and define how many times you want it. But let's just click that on yours and save it as forever so that it plays continuously through, so that we can really get a good look at what's happening. Now, in terms of the general setup, I think the logo is really large in the composition. I mean, it takes over a third of the page. That's just really too big. It's interfering with this gorgeous portion of the image itself. So take a look at my cursor. Something like that for the logo is just fine. Now, experience St. Thomas for the first time again. Now, you're going to fade that in and fade it out. That is going to give you a chance to use this area for your call to action. That's one option. And I think in this particular case, with the constraints in placement and the fact that the image is dead center, I'm going to recommend that because it's going to be difficult to place type over the image, especially if you keep this visible throughout the entire composition. Plus, I think that the type over here is counterbalancing the visual weight over here with the logo and this big bush. So it's really balancing things out. So my recommendation would be, I'm not real sure what you want to do with your masked image, but definitely that has to get itself worked into the composition. In terms of this headline, Experience St. Thomas for the first time again. Okay, so that fades in, then it fades out, then your call to action fades in and fades out, then the whole loop starts over again. And I think that's going to be the best construction for this particular configuration, this setup specifically with the image right dead center in the composition itself. Yeah, because that'll alleviate the balance issues. I think leaving type up there is a good idea. I think that's good placement because it really does a nice job counterbalancing the visual weight towards the right side of the composition. All right, so those are my recommendations moving forward. Fantastic job, though. Really looks great. If you have anything, you want me to take a look at anything, resubmit, I'm more than glad to. So if you have any questions also, please, I'll be glad to address anything that comes up. All right, thank you very much.